I've been a part of a very creative church.
You have?
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself a creative?
Yes. Very much so. I would consider myself a creative more than anything else.
You know what's wild is when people tell me, when somebody tells me, sorry, but just if somebody tells me I'm a creative, it's usually a massive red flag.
Yeah, 100%.
For me.
Well, I don't introduce myself as that.
That is a red flag.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you would describe yourself as a creative person.
Yeah.
But to say I am a creative.
I am the creative.
Now it's the creative?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Now you're just trying to get a rise out of me.
Yes,
We're not
I am.
doing this. Okay. Today we are talking about creativity, specifically in worship and tech ministry in church. And has creativity gotten in the way of the whole point of all this in sharing the gospel with other people? Has it become an idol? That is kind of the big question that we are facing today. A little bit weighty, but it should be fun. We might disagree too. You said we're going to disagree.
Yeah. I don't know. We might not. It just depends how it goes.
What do we mean by when we say creative? Let's just set the ground floor. I know we're joking, like I'm a creative, but what is creativity in the context of worship and tech ministry in the church? What does that look like? Let's just get very ground floor here.
I don't even know how to answer the question. I mean, it's so subjective.
You're going to give me a circular definition? It's creativity.
Yeah. No,
it's when you're being really creative to create things that come off as unique and
I may
creative.
create something and some other person goes, well, that wasn't creative at all. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the one time I was coached from one of my mentors who said, you creatives are trying to create stuff. And he's like, I don't think any of that's creative. So it's like, he was reminding me that it's so subjective. Like it's not because I think it's creative doesn't mean this person thinks it's creative. So I don't know. That is a hard question for me that I've been not struggling with, but just something that's always been on the forefront of my mind of like, hey, we create, but it doesn't mean that it's creative. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't know.
I'm going to totally risk sounding cynical here, but sometimes when people say they're creative, what I hear is they think they're different. Like what we're doing in our church, in our worship and tech ministry is different because we're creative. Creative means like we're not imitating, we're not copying other things. Mm-hmm. We're creating. And it's never been done before. That I think when we talk about the idea of creativity in the context of worship and tech, we're talking about allowing God to use our gifts to create something. I think the less cynical version in that is you can create something and maybe somebody else has done it, but like you are genuinely allowing God to use the gifts you have to create, to do something that maybe you haven't done before.
Right. There are very few things in the church that have never been done before.
Exactly.
I think too, when you're healthy, the creative is not even a word you're using in your vocab.
Really?
When you're in a healthy church and
because you just used it.
I know, but like, well, I know, but we're being
I get it.
You
I'm
know, for the clicks.
For the clicks.
For me though, like I worked at a church and it was a church that wanted to wow and inspire people. And that wow and inspiration wanted to be a reminder that when they went back to that memory or that transition or element we created, that it would remind them of their day of salvation if it took place that day. It would remind them of the gospel that happened that day. But backing up to a specific story, someone walked up to our creative team and said, I want Christmas to feel like the day Jesus was born. How do we make it like that? How do we get angels?
That's gonna be
a big one.
But what they wanted to do is they wanted to create the spiritual side of things, not the nativity scene we all know. Like we weren't doing a nativity scene. It was like, how do we create the spiritual realm? And,
okay, I get it now.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it was big and bold, very, very creative, but that was never the language that was used.
But somebody else might have a Christmas morning experience where they want it to be creative in how can we express the fact that Jesus came in the most mundane way.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, that creative expression can happen on either side. You can have this angelic glory in the highest moment, or you can have this born in a barn moment.
Yes.
And both can have creativity in them. Doesn't mean that one is better than the other. Doesn't mean that, just because it's all flash and trash and whiz bang, it's better. It's like, no, the spirit behind it though is how can we express something about the wonder of God? Like that to me, like when I think about creativity and mystery or creativity and ministry, it's about sort of bringing people into the wonder of what God has to offer, an aspect of God's character, things like that. It's not just Cirque du Soleil. It's not just a circus. It's like, no, how can we reflect God's character in what we're trying to plan and produce? And that's a different mindset.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing creativity just to be cool, that's not ministry.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it is this kind of cultural thing in the church, and it's not new. This has been around for a while. We see creativity as like a very attractive component in what we do in the church. Internally we do, right? Like it's always seen as a very positive thing. Why is, just going back to this a little bit, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but why is it that churches want to be creative, do we find? Like there are biblical truths that can point towards creativity being something that God has gifted us with.
But I think way back, like just in terms of the last couple generations, coming through the 80s with Willow Creek, coming into the 90s with Saddleback, North Point, like there was this leveraging creativity to bring relevance to culture, or bring cultural relevance to ministry. That was a massive deal, right? To be attractional, to bring people in, because it was like, I remember we did an event at North Point years ago for Christmas that was an annual Christmas program, and a buddy of mine brought his dad, who's a radio promoter in Atlanta, and he was like, man, this is a $50 ticket at the Fox. This is incredible. Like, you guys pulled off something amazing. Well, it's because he felt a connection to something relevant from his world that was brought into a religious context, that he was able to see God in a different way because of these creative elements. It's like, so there was a lot of that going on at that time, of people trying to leverage cultural relevance for ministry as an outreach. And there's some value there, but now I think we've gotten to the point where some of that has gotten out of whack. Some of it has become the thing instead of the actual gospel being the thing. That was the danger, right? Is, this attractional versus missional model. I think that, there's a lot of tension there in the last 10 years or so, because people think, well, attractional ministry doesn't work anymore because it's watered down, or it's spoon feeding, or it's not about the real gospel, or whatever. So there's that tension that's real, but I still think, leveraging art, leveraging fine arts, leveraging building something, from nothing, like that is a way to connect to the heart of God in a unique and powerful way. So you got to hold both sides pretty loosely.
I agree. And I feel like God's given, the ultimate creator here has given us the right to create, and you have people who do want to create. At the same time, if I create something and all eyes point to how awesome I am and my team is, miss the mark. If I create something and all eyes point to how awesome and big and great Jesus is, I've hit the mark, in my opinion. Now, in the church setting, the win for us in ministry would be that we see salvation take place with the experience of services we've created, and we have an incredible follow-up process with those salvations, and we take them into a discipleship process. That should be the win in ministry. When the win in ministry stops at job well done at the end of the last quarter of the last song, and we don't think about that anymore, and we move on to the next, as a team, we need to more than likely reevaluate what the mission is and why being creative is important, but being more focused in on the long-term goal, which should be ministry and discipleship.
Yeah. Who is it for? Like, because we can't impress God. We're not going to, is this for God? Is God going like, whoa,
I've never seen that before.
You guys really got me this Christmas. Like, this birthday party was sick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that what we're trying
Like when
to
the
get?
angel comes above, we float the angel down from the ceiling, and she comes above the baby Jesus in the manger.
But then Rudolph swoops in.
But you see the cables holding the angel. And God's like, the only thing I didn't do was have cables. They beat me to it. Darn.
That's really good. Okay. So if it's for the people coming in, is it for our church body? Is it for the people who are not a part of our church body, but with them to come in? We're not really asking those questions very honestly.
Yeah.
And from my personal experience, creativity almost always in the church leads to complexity. And that complexity, in my experience again, has almost always led to just chaos. Because let's be honest, like the church in the worship and tech side, we do not have an abundance of labor. We do not have an abundance of finances. So we're just even being able to pull off a normal weekend. And when I say normal weekend, like we're using tracks because we don't have enough musicians, like we're scraping by trying to get the weekend to happen. That's hard enough. And then we're like, okay, went to this Coldplay concert. I saw this one thing and I was really inspired. And so now I want to bring that level of creativity into what we're doing in the church. Why?
I think too, I don't create, but creative teams, do we not only meet to create Easter, Christmas, and at the movies?
Well, yeah, that's
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like a normal weekend flow, I'm just saying, I don't know. I mean, I'm wrong. Maybe there are, obviously there's churches out there that have incredible creative processes and they probably create all the weekends and they think 2 songs, hosting, song, message, giving.
We could create a planning center run sheet right now
Yeah.
and send it to 80% of the churches in America, and they would say, "Yeah, that's our Sunday."
That's what we do. So when in my creative space, it was we only created Easter, Christmas, our big summer series, which at the movies was a thing. Those are the creative spaces. And what we always said in those creative meetings were, this is our Super Bowl weekend. This is the biggest weekend. This is when most people unchurched are coming. This is when most people are unsaved are coming. This is when, so it's how can we just wow and inspire them and give them an all. And so we put all of our eggs in the basket of creating that moment.
And the trouble is you have to try to one-up yourself from last year.
Yeah.
It's like you put all your creative ideas in that basket last year, and now you've got to either get a new basket or fill it with different things or try to, how are we going to do better than that?
And just to add to that, the bigger issue is they come back the next week and it sucks.
Right.
Because all of our A team is taking a break because they just served 10 days in a row and exhausted. So, and along with our B teams, now our C team is up and they come back to church that weekend and it's a normal flow. And it's like, well, this is not at all what we experienced last weekend as a first time new believer, unchurched person. So that was always my pushback is, guys, we are throwing a 10 to this. But next weekend, when all of us are off because we're tired,
You can't be a 4.
it's going to be a 4.
Right.
Don't you think it's just contributing to like this consumeristic culture though?
100%. Yeah.
Because that's what you just described is like so sad to me because it's like, okay, if your creative masterpiece really touched them, then I don't think they would care. Like if there was an intervention because of this creative masterpiece that you put together.
Some would say we live in an ROI society. America has created an ROI culture, return on investment. What's in it for me? If I give that church a chance, what's in it for me? If I go to that, what's in it for me? If I go to that dinner, what's in it for me? If I go to that party, what's in it for me? If I shoot this podcast today, what's in it for me? Our culture has created that society. And so a church has to come in, and if they know that, they want to adapt to that, we got to get them into the building. And our prayer would be, the Holy Spirit intervenes, the Holy Spirit changes lives, the Holy Spirit they encounter the Holy Spirit. That's what the argument would be. I'm saying, to speak back on what you're saying, that's what you would be told. Now, whether that's right or wrong is going to be based on the heart of the person who's saying that, and are they actually trying to point people to Jesus, or are they trying to brag on their Instagram that they had 20,000 people at church?
And I'm not really interested in like right or wrong. Been there for sure, but I'm not even interested in that anymore. It's more of just, does it work?
Yeah.
I think that's more the thing that I poke at. Is I'm like, hey, is this working? I know it at one point maybe did.
Well, you got to define work. Sorry, I keep poking into it because it's like someone would say...
Working meaning mature believers who are living
Yeah.
out the Great Commission.
Well, and that's the ultimate where the church is at in America today. That's the ultimate conversation.
And that's not just creativity.
Yeah.
That's every aspect of our service.
Yeah.
But it's so tied to this topic because worship and tech, like we're on the forefront. We're the first thing that people usually experience in the church today. So much of how our churches culturally are shaped has like what we do in worship and tech is a big part of that.
Yeah.
And how we bring creativity. We're talking about the gathering, right? Which is a pretty important thing. And we don't want to undermine the power and the command that is to gather.
Yeah.
And so when we gather, we're trying to infuse creativity. And is that creativity getting in the way of the whole point, right? We're saying it's a much bigger conversation. The whole point of what are we actually doing in this space? Who is it for? Why?
So I have an example of when it works.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 weeks ago, I was at Auburn Community Church. Shout out to Auburn. And they're in the middle of a long series on Hebrews. So it's this, you think about a sermon series. There's going to be some branding. There's going to be some artwork. There's going to be some, slides. Mm-hmm. There's going to be touch points that sort of point people back to the topic. Well, they have a big upstage LED wall that's really wide. And the way they do their graphics and their stuff mapped to the wall is, you've got lower thirds and then you've got things that are kind of mapped in various places on the wall. But the sermon series graphic itself was the most compelling, most beautiful, like hand-drawn art. Like every time I think about the book of Hebrews, I'm going to remember how beautiful this LED treatment was in this sermon series. And it was like that, just that drew me in. It drew me closer to want to engage. It drew me to the passage. It drew me to the heart of God because of just this beautiful artistic representation of what we're talking about during this series versus, okay, how much flash and trash can we throw at this song? How much, how many sort of bells and whistles can we have in here? It was like, no, this is a understated, tasteful, beautiful, compelling, rich, like it just for me personally, it just hit me in a way that was like, oh, that
it captured you.
It captured me. It captivated me. Like this is creativity because it wasn't trying to bludgeon anybody with whatever. It wasn't beating anybody over the head. It was just like, as I would read the scripture, as the lower third would come up on the screen and the verses there, it's like, well, there's also this image and this image and this image that stayed up there the whole time that were just gorgeous and super engaging. So it's like, man, it's important to leverage our creativity.
Yeah.
But it was done in such a way that you could tell the heart behind it was like, no, we want to draw you into the scriptures.
Yeah. That's really cool, man. I even hearing you talk about that, I'm just thinking about the guy or gal who created that graphic. I think I wonder here, what if creativity is just about us expressing the way that God has uniquely designed us? Like we are made uniquely different. Every single person.
Yeah.
God has made us uniquely. What if us being creative is just literally using the gifts that he's given us, knowing that the gifts he's given us are unique, instead of being a try-hard to be a creative.
Right. Because if you do it that way, then it's going to be less likely to copy paste.
Yeah.
It's going to be less likely to chase the guy down the street. It's going to be less likely to just try to sort of manhandle our way into reinventing something we've already done. It's like, man, if you let the creatives just express what God's put in them, you're probably going to have better luck.
Well, yeah, and it's a language thing. I think you had mentioned this earlier, Dylan. It's like if we're in a meeting and we're like, let's do something extra creative this weekend. I think that's honestly, it's just kind of a dumb thing to say.
Yeah.
Instead, hey, Jamie, you are an incredibly talented artist. And I've seen that in you and we've got this sermon series coming up and I need a graphic. I'm just like, I'm unsure what to do. Could you make something for me? That's creative.
Yeah.
And it's not this like special, like, curtain over people's eyes, like, get in our church, it's going to be awesome because we did this extra creative thing. I think sometimes I just think the process is broken in how we pursue creativity in some environments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone that's attending something. Like, because I've attended plenty of things, and someone has created whatever I'm watching. And so I'm thinking like through like, what are some of the most creative moments I've been a part of when I was not a part of the creative process, when I was receiving? And inside the church space. Outside of the church space, I'm not going to talk about any of that. Plenty of creative happened out there. Inside the church space, you know what I honestly think might be the most creative thing I've been a part of?
Listening to me mix.
Yes. Is the Indescribable tour. When Louis did the message on the moons.
All the astronomy stuff.
Astronomy. I mean, still today, I'm reminded, I would randomly be driving down the road and be reminded of that message of how good and big God is. And how small we are, but yet how he just encloses us and cares for us and loves us and holds us. That message, and when was that? I mean,
15 years ago.
So that created
18 years ago.
They created a moment that will always last for someone was in ministry 16 years. And still today, I'm on a podcast talking about, man, that Indescribable tour. Yeah, I don't know. So I would like to know the process. How'd you guys do that?
Jeff's like, that was 15 years ago, bro. I don't know.
That was longer than that. It was
but you know
more
what
like
I'm saying?
18,
Like for us talking about it,
Yeah.
put yourselves in the shoes of what creative moment captured you.
Yeah.
And think about that team that put that together and how they put it together.
Yeah. This is people. It all goes back to the unique giftings that God has given his people who make up this faith community that we call the church.
Yeah.
It all goes back to that. And we want to take shortcuts when we don't have the right people. I always laugh because there was a church I was a part of where anytime we ever did something special, it was bringing somebody from outside the church in. It's like, well, if this is going to be different, this is going to be special, then we can't use our people.
Right. We got to have XYZ designer. We got to have
Or like, I mean, you name it, Cirque du Soleil, whoever. Like, it's like we got to get somebody else in.
Yeah.
And we don't care if they're a part of the greater body believers anyways. It's just, we just got to get something different.
Yeah.
And it's just totally undermining the gifts that God has given his people. And I think sometimes we totally look past the people that we have in front of us because we want to force this creative idea or emotion that we're after.
Yeah. I may not be a surprise, may be a surprise to some. I used to work at a church in Las Vegas, Nevada. And one year I was there. I think Adam told me or somebody told me that we had gotten best free show in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas Magazine had labeled us the best free show in Vegas for that particular year. To us, that was a huge win because we were like, wow, we have a lot of shows, like a lot of creative shows happening in Vegas. I guess the win for us would be that we offered the gospel and this idea of Jesus but very creative. And we would say, I mean, even another church I worked at, we'll do anything short of sin to create and to get people in the doors so they experience Jesus for life change. And so this whole podcast, I knew going into it, I mentioned, I was like, it might be challenging for me because, I've been a part of a very creative church before, and they're still doing very creative things. They still are rocking and doing very, very good things. And so I was like, I wonder how this is going to go for me. Am I going to be more of a defensive approach with this, or am I going to be more open to it? But I feel like it's been good. But the church in Vegas, they do fly Santa Claus around in the room. They do bring choo-choo trains out. We do. The Christmas 2018 or 2017, I can't remember.
They have T-Rex on stage.
Well, they had T-Rex, but I don't know that year. But the idea, I watched the 2020 Justin Timberlake experience at Bridgestone. I was there in person, and I said I want my next Christmas to look like that. And we did the 2020 experience. And that was the goal. Everyone in suit and ties, big grand staircases, big grand red drapes, and that's the first time we introduced flying somebody across the room. And
I'm not trying to pick on anybody. That's not creative.
Is it not?
Well, it can't be. It was already done. Like, you're literally just mimicked, didn't you? I mean, you just said, like, you went to the show.
Yep.
You're like, I want it to be this.
But it's never been done in a church. And so that's the it's been done in the secular world. That's why I said I want to focus on the church world.
Yeah.
In the secular world, it's not, I mean, it's just done differently and bigger, better, more money, bigger designs, bigger sets, but they're just going to keep up in the game. But specifically in the church world, if the competition around us is Cirque and the competition around us is shows and the competition around us is concerts and people are paying big time money to go see that stuff, can we give it to them for free? But implement the gospel and implement life change and implement, and get those salvations.
But it goes back to, so who's the creativity for?
Well, if people are one and pointed towards the kingdom of heaven, some would say it's one for the kingdom, for God.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just, I see how you get there because I've been a part of it.
Yeah.
I've been a part
we
of
all
it.
have.
We
And I
all
think-
have. And I understand the process in getting
I
there.
totally understand the thinking, and I've been a part of those meetings, and I understand the thought process. My question is just the whole idea of we're in competition with Disney or Cirque du Soleil or Beyonce or whatever tour. It's like, should the church be that? Should that be a goal for us? Like to be?
I mean, people
Well, we in fact
really
are not.
believe
We are,
that.
But
I know they believe that.
Yeah.
And I know that those conversations happen around tables today.
Today, yes.
And I get that. I fundamentally disagree with that being, or the need for that to be a motivation.
we in fact, I don't believe are in competition with those people.
like your church?
What?
Or-
No, I'm just saying
the
the
church,
church,
yeah, yeah.
Christians. We're not. Are we in comp? I'm not saying I'm not saying attending a Beyonce concert or any of that is bad, but is that meant to glorify Christ? No, I don't. I mean, maybe the artist is a believer and they want to use. I mean, I'm not. I can't say that too broadly, but like when we look at the world, usually those things are not to glorify Christ.
Some people would say taking out entertainment, the lake day on Sunday when it's 78 degrees outside and it's beautiful and it's nice and people want to be on their boat and they're not going to church. I've been told that is a competition of ours. So it's not just
when you say competition, you mean like competition for their attention, like competition for their
get them in the doors. Get them in the doors. They're going to other places on Sundays. They're going not their churches. They're doing other things. They're going out late Saturday night to a concert and staying out and skipping church the next morning. They're going out to the lake on Sunday mornings. They're distracted. So how do we create to get them in and let them know if they don't come back the next Sunday, they are missing something.
This is such, this could be.
And that's sort of the. I mean, this is going to.
It's a whole other episode.
It's a whole other episode because
Why?
because then
let's do it right now.
because then we're talking about the church as a business and competing for market share, and it's a different conversation, but it's an equally important conversation.
I just know people are listening. I kind of feel a little bit like
I get what you're saying because it's still tied to the sense of is creativity getting in the way of the big picture? The big picture, and I hear the heart in we want to gather the saints. We want to get the people in the doors because scripturally we are commanded to gather. Mm-hmm. That we can't undermine.
And scripturally also says the Holy Spirit will draw.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that.
So I think I'm totally in like we will do anything short of sin to get people to gather. But at some point we got to consider if we have to do anything short of sin to get people to gather, who are our people?
Because at what point is that mindset itself sinful?
Yeah, exactly. We'll do anything short of sin to force people to gather. It's like, well, okay, that's kind of an interesting statement in itself. But I understand, we all understand, at least here I know we do. Maybe some of you don't, and it might be better for it. But we understand that tension of being in that environment of we got to get everybody through the doors. And so what thing can we do creatively to get people here? Mm-hmm. I think that, and at one point I think that worked. What I think the church is changing.
Right, because the problem is, with social media, with other experiences, with whatever. Like I look at, my daughter just turned 19, so I look at like 18 to 24-year-olds now. It's a completely different world than when I was that age. Because for me, when I first saw that attractional thing in creativity, it was like this is like nothing I've ever seen in the church. Like this, I didn't know ministry could be relevant. I didn't know I could be met where I am in terms of my tastes and my approach to music or my approach to entertainment or whatever. It's like, yes, I want to be a part of this. Whereas now this, Gen Z and younger, it's like they see our most creative effort and they say, oh yeah, that was Coldplay 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because they see every concert of every artist in the world on their phone. So it's like they don't want you to compete for their attention that way. They're yearning for authenticity.
Yeah.
They're yearning for vulnerability. So it's like my prediction is, and I've said this for a few years now, I think 10 years from now the church is going to be smaller. It's going to be less flash and trash. It's going to be more reverent, maybe a little more liturgical, maybe a little more whatever. And so my question is, how does creativity lean into that? Like instead of trying to create the next big wow moment, it's like, how can we create awe and wonder? How can we bring people in and connect with their heart in a way that's not about the show, but that's about the irresistibility of Jesus?
Yeah.
And so that to me, like those are the conversations that need to be happening around tables. Yep. Is not what can we produce, but how can we engage this to look a little different than it did when we were coming up.
Yeah, the thing
Can I say something real fast?
Yeah, do it.
I think to add to that, not to disagree, to add to that, we heard the generation say, I go here because it's just better than my grandma's church.
Right.
So what I hear you saying is that wave may have come and gone.
Because now they're saying, I can't go there. That's like my parents'
But like
church.
our generation, the mid-30s to 40s,
Oh, yeah.
50s, we started going to church because it was like, well, that is way better than grandma's church. And
Right.
I do like that. I do like the sound. I do like the way it looks
Right.
and feels. My kids love the kids ministry. That's very engaging. And so, but what I hear you maybe suggesting is that wave has come and gone a little bit.
Well, because the current kids are now saying, oh, yeah, that looks like my parents' church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
I mean, I just think the tides are changing. There was a season where the currency in church with the congregation was entertainment. I do believe that was a thing. Mm-hmm. And I believe the currency is changing to relationship and connection.
Which is the reason why I said at the very beginning of my rant that if we're doing the things the right way, the word creative probably isn't even being brought up because we are more so focused on, what did I say? The follow-up, the discipleship, and getting them into a process where they're being discipled.
Yeah, because again,
I just want to repeat that again because I don't want to be going down as
No,
the guy.
Dylan's just saying I was right.
No.
I just know homeboy on the keyboard right now is saying that guy is all creative and doesn't love the Lord. And
no, but it just I think the most important question we've asked is who is it for?
Yeah.
Who is the creativity for? And we can convince ourselves we're doing a good thing and neglect this other thing. I keep being reminded of like my relationship with my son, Joel. Oftentimes as a dad, you think you're doing the right thing, especially in the busyness of life these days. It's like, well, I got to go to work to provide for my son. I got to do this. I got to do that. And at the end of some days, Joel looks at me, he's like, Dad, I just want to be with you. I just want to hang with you. Can we just I understand you're busy, you got work, you got this. And I'm like, dang, he's totally right. Like the only currency that he has is like my presence. He doesn't care about money. And I think sometimes in the church, we make the same mistake when we're leading our congregations. It's like, they want this. They need that special moment at Christmas. They need this, they need that. And we bring in all this creativity. At the end of the day, all these people want is to feel connected to a body of believers and to be able to come in and worship their God, worship the Almighty God with no distractions. And it's actually not all that complicated, but we've convinced ourselves that there's all these other currencies at play. And so it just leads me back to the question, like, hey, who is the creativity really for? Just be really honest with yourself. This is your career. For some of you, this is your career. So it can become an identity thing. Well, I got to make sure that I'm doing a really great job. So it might actually be for you. The creativity might just be an outlet for you. Be honest about that. Is it getting in the way of the whole point? Gathering the saints, teaching the gospel, and sending people out to go and make disciples. Is it contributing to that, or is it taking away? Right.
But if you were hired to be the creative pastor, then you better do it as well as you possibly can and bring your creativity, bring those gifts to bear on exactly that.
Yeah.
In other words, not creativity for its own sake, not just because it's cool, not just because it's, oh man, I feel so good about however this thing turned out. It's like, okay, that's great, but is it moving people? Is it drawing them in? Is it, are you leveraging it for the right reasons?
Yeah. Yeah. Always comes back to heart posturing and identity, I guess, around here. But that's the truth. We always try in the podcast to give some sort of actionable help to you and not just sit here and talk for 30 minutes. Something that we have put together a while back is a free 4-week devotional for you and your team. Oftentimes these issues, like I just said, can come back to just maybe needing a recentering in our heart posturing and why we're doing this whole thing in the first place. We put that devotional guide together for you and your teams. It's free. Go download it. We'll put a link to it in the description below. We also have a team night guide that we'll put in the description below. Oftentimes, how we pursue creativity in the church, whether it's done poorly or well, it's just a symptom of not having the right team together and being able to communicate vision, where you're headed as an organization, how you approach ideas of creativity, and so on and so forth. Grab that. We'll put it in the description below as well. Thanks for joining us on the MxU podcast. We'll see you next time.